Hi, I'm Austin Hilbun. I'm a CPI with InterNACHI, and today we're going to be inspecting a home in Tyler, Texas. It's 2,200 square foot on a concrete slab, and we're also going to be doing a WDI, which is a termite inspection, and a sprinkler inspection. One of the first things I like to do is work from the outside in. I go to the outermost corner, which on this side we don't have access to the backyard, so we're going to start right here. We're going to work our way back around to the property. So the first thing we're going to do is come to the air conditioner unit. We're going to go ahead and get the serial number off of it and see the age of the system. So this unit is a 2018 and it is a 4-ton unit. If you look at the model number on your serial tag in increments of 6, every 6 is in relation to a half a ton. So this has 48 in the model number, so that tells us it's a 4-ton unit. So we're going to inspect the insulation on the coolant line. It appears to be in good shape. It could be a little better sealed coming into the attic. And also we have probably an older unit at one point in time that's been sealed, and that looks to be okay. Disconnect has a little bit of rusting. We'll go ahead and document that. Overall, it appears to be in good shape. Up to code now, we should have a plug on any exterior wall within 25 feet of a unit, so we don't have that. So we'll go ahead and mark that up as well. Now, the way I like to inspect is from bottom to top. So one of the things I'll be looking for obviously is the foundation. I'm gonna go ahead and let the client know we have high soil around the foundation. That is a conducive condition for termites, as well as it blocking my view to evaluate the foundation. Moving our way up to the wall, we're looking for cracks, deficiencies in the mortar. I don't see any over here, but when we come to right here, we definitely have some deterioration in the soffit and rake over here. I'm going to document that for the client. Get multiple angles. Okay, now looking up, we have some more deterioration on the trim boards. Document that as well. Okay, so now we've come to an exterior hose bib. We're going to get a water pressure off of that, and we're also going to document that appears we have a little bit of a leak. Okay, and also we do not have a anti-back siphon device on there. All right, we are right at 70 psi, which that's perfectly fine. We want to be anywhere between 40 and 80. If we're over 80 psi, we can possibly damage the plumbing in our home. Looking at the vertical wall to see if we have any issues with the wood. We'll check the vent screen if we can see anything there. I don't. All right. Have some sort of a shutter, some sort, with a window. We'll go ahead and get some photos of this. Let them know they're having some issues with the screen, and also this window could be better sealed. Looking at this exterior wall, we're seeing some cracking in this brick veneer. It appears to be a stress crack. It is more concerning whenever we have bricks intersected by the crack. That is a sign of more of a differential deflection than a common crack, which is typically two man-made materials that have just gotten weak over time. And the mortar is weaker than a brick, so it will start to crack, but we're starting to see it intersecting the brick. So we'll take a photo of that and show that to the client. And it's typical to see this near a window or door, because if you think of the continuity of framing of a wall, when you put a window or door in it, it breaks that up and provides weak points within the wall. So it's typical to see those in these areas. All right, now coming to the gas meter, we're going to document this for our report. We're looking to see if we have any rusting, any corrosion. We also want to see if there's any grounding, which I do not see. Typically there's a grounding wire that comes out right next to it and grounds the system. So we'll document that for the client. And then once again, we have openings into the interior of the home that need to be sealed. So now we have a full view of the foundation, so we're going to go ahead and evaluate that. You always at least want to have 4 to 6 inches of viewing of the foundation. If you do have high soil, it's not the end of the world, but you need to let your clients know, and you need to tell them why it shouldn't be that way, which is, you know, for termites, other wood destroying insects, and also you can't fully evaluate your foundation. So I don't see any cracks on the foundation. And also the more common deficiency we see on foundations is on the corner. You would have what you call a corner pop. This is a very, very mild one. We'll go ahead and document it. Probably more so as a buyer's note than a deficiency. But that's probably one of the weakest points on a foundation, and that's where we typically see it. Also, we're seeing some deterioration in the mortar. Various spots on the exterior wall. There we are, right there. And also we're seeing another crack in the wall right there. We'll get that documented as well. Okay. One of the reasons I always carry a long screwdriver around, it looks a little odd, but one of the things that's really good for is to check for wood rot on your soffit and your fascia boards. And when you have gutter systems installed on a home, it's very common to see that. Just be careful, you don't want to hit it too hard and puncture a hole. So right here, this looks like just normal deterioration. So we're going to go ahead and photo that. It's not wood rot, and I'm concerned about if it's wood rot or not because of our WDI report that we'll do afterwards. Now working our way this way, once again from bottom to top, I'm looking at the foundation, observing to see if there's any cracks. Moving my way up to the wall. Okay, and now looking at the soffit, fascia board, and trim. Right here, have some more cracking. All right, now anytime you have a boxed out window like this, sometimes you can have deterioration underneath, so it's always good to get a vantage point underneath to see if we have any wood rot, and we do. In this area right here, you can kind of see it's very soft. It's been caulked and sealed over and painted. So we'll go ahead and document that. Okay. Also looking to see if the window is sealed. It's not. We'll get that. Okay. And sometimes it's always good when you're evaluating a large span like we are right here, about a 20 to 30 foot wall, to back away. It's always a good time to look at the roof line, look at the ridge, see if we have any sags in the deck, anything obvious. We have some issues with our gutter right there, like something has fell on it at one point. And also we have a lot of debris in the gutter. I'm seeing some issues over here that we'll get to in a second. In this area right here, it looks like we do have some fungal growth of some sort. I'm not licensed to do mold inspection, so I never say that word. I just talk about fungal growth in general. So right here, we have a little bit. They can just put some bleach on that and clean that off. Once again, we have some wood rot in various areas around the windows. Okay. We're definitely having some issues right here. It's no coincidence we have a lot of debris built up, and then it looks like we're having issues in this area. It's very soft and damaged wood. It's rotted. And we can see that the seam has failed on the gutter, and it's caused issues in multiple areas, so we'll definitely document that for the client. And if it was holding water right now, I'm pretty sure we would see it leaking. Back to this window right here. We've definitely had some failure on the sealant around the window. It's extremely loose. We could probably pull this out if we wanted to. It is a very large gap, so this would probably be more than just adding caulk to it. They might need to add a sealant, maybe some sort of insulation behind it, then seal it. We'll let the client know about that. Okay, alrighty. And when we do our sprinkler inspection, we'll come back and be sure that none of these sprinkler heads are actually spraying onto the structure, because that can damage it. Okay, once again, deterioration in the mortar. We have loose bricks. These are really common to see around windows, especially on the upper portion of the window. there. Okay, anytime we come to a light fixture, recommend just giving it a little touch to be sure it's secured tightly. Okay. All right, so we're working our way from top to bottom. Some issues with the mortar. We'll look underneath the window. Solid. Okay. So pretty much all of the windows need to be caulked and sealed a little bit better. Do have some issues with the screen right in here. We'll let the client know. And also we'll let the client know if we have any missing screens. Sometimes we'll find those in the attic. Okay, so in this area, looks like we've had an animal of some sort that's tried to gain entry into the home. It has damaged the vertical wall. The cedar shakes. Coming onto the front porch, we do have some issues right here with the foundation, it appears. We have a crack that's running the length of the wall. So this wall right here is very heavy, so that makes sense to see that, but it does have a little bit of displacement. This portion of the foundation looks like it's moved some back towards the street, and also it's not flat anymore, it's a little bit of a lip. So we'll definitely document that for the client. Come to our first outlet. All exterior outlets need to be GFCI protected. Anytime there's a possible potential for a water source near an outlet, it needs to be so. Okay, we do not have GFCI protection on these exterior outlets, and also the receptacle is loose in nature. We always like to recommend bubble covers. They're a very good product. Okay. So we have more cracking in the mortar. This right here is of less concern. It's running a straight line. It's not intersecting the brick. It's never a bad idea to push on the wall. Check for brick ties. Okay. So we come to our front door. Looking for any issues, any spidering in the concrete. Check to see if the doorbell works on the interior as well. It does. Okay. I'm seeing more cracking over here. Not right here. So we have cracking here and here. So I already noticed a drop in the roof line. Is it the roof line or the gutters? So it appears the gutters do not have the appropriate fall. We do not have a downspout on this side. The way it's set up, it's intended all to come back to over here. So it's definitely not gonna work that way. Also, when I'm looking at it, it appears as if our porch post is actually leaning a little bit towards the street. So that kind of will also tie into some of those cracks that we're seeing. It appears that possibly this area may have had some settlement. So we'll definitely let the client know. And foundation issues in general, they are of concern. So we definitely want to document that in the porch section along with the foundation section, and recommend that a structural engineer come and take a look at that. Hopefully it's just on this porch area. Okay. Alrighty. So in this area, once again, we have a high soil line. It's impeding us from fully evaluating the foundation. Okay, these windows are a little bit better, caulked and sealed, no loose bricks. Okay. Also right here, you want to check and be sure this brick is not flat. This is pretty flat ledge. And that also makes sense why they have mortar repairs right here. They've probably had water sitting right here and it damaged the brick. So once again, the foundation is being concealed by either soil in this issue. This area, actually the gravel. Okay, no issues with the wall. We have some more deterioration right here. Appears to just be weathered, not rotted. Okay. Just a little loose. We'll go ahead and tell them it's loose. Before we move on, since we are standing on the driveway, we're going to go ahead and note to the client that they do have some cracking in various areas. It's very common to see this. The driveway is poured at a different time than the foundation itself. It's typically, around 4 inches, 4 to 5 inches. Your foundation obviously is a lot deeper than that. It's meant to withstand more weight, so that's common why we see these issues. Okay. All right. So we do have some more cracking in various areas on the actual fireplace. So we'll document that. Okay. Later on, once we hop up on the roof, we'll verify that we have a spark arrestor up there and be sure there's no issues with the fireplace in general. It's always a good idea to take a side view of it to be sure there's no leaning. And also, if you remember, with some of your InterNACHI training, there are codes that involve height of the fireplace in relation to into the roof itself, and it looks like we have appropriate clearance. Also, I'm seeing another hole created by a animal of some sort, and that almost may look like it's an opening, so we'll verify that that is not. It looks like we have a little deterioration and some wood rot on this vertical wall. We should have clearance, and we do, but we're having some issues on that wall. We're going to document that once again. Checking to see if the wall has excessive give. Appears not to. So in this area, something has damaged the brick. There's another rung of brick underneath this, so this right here is damaged brick. Over time, that could pose an issue because these bricks do support one another, so if enough of them become damaged, we could have issues higher up. Another thing that we'll evaluate is the fence. You never truly want to see your fence in contact with your home. Fence is made out of wood. The treatment that they use to treat these pickets and also the lumber that was used to build this fence, eventually that treatment will fade and it'll become just normal type of wood that could eventually be damaged by insects. So whenever it's in contact with the home, that is considered a conducive condition for termites and wood destroying insects. So we'll document that. And once again, wood in contact with ground. All right. So we have some more issues with some of the soffit fascia board and trim. And we'll back up and take a quick look at the roof line. I am seeing a hump that is running parallel with the ridge. We'll get a better look at that when we get on that side. Okay. All right, we do have, I guess, what you would call a little bit of a minor shingle pop. Sometimes these nails, when moisture in this Texas heat, will start to push those back out, and we'll actually raise up the shingle some. Okay, we have some missing trim We have some damage to the soffit and more missing trim. We'll add those two pictures together on the report. All right, so now looking at the garage door. This is a wooden garage door. Some of the paint has deteriorated. It just appears to be cosmetic. Go ahead and put that as a buyer's note. We'll further evaluate this more when we get to the garage. Okay. Okay. Loose trim, damaged trim. Okay. All right. Now in this area, we have some extremely severely damaged soffit. Very brittle. We will look to see if it was possibly an insect issue. You can't always determine that without damaging the home, and we cannot do so. We do not want to deface the value of the home by any means. So we'll just document it and kind of state it to the client in a way that makes sense. So now we're on the detached garage. We have a few things going on here. We have had some repairs done in the past. We'll get a better vantage point to be sure whatever was going on is sealed. Okay, looks like we have two penetrations right there. They're gonna need to get that resealed. All right, we have a tree in contact with the roof. You would be surprised how much damage that can do to a shingle over a period of time with just a light breeze. And also these shingles right here, we have some damage. Okay. Anytime you have a lot of stuff on a wall, you don't necessarily have to call it debris, but it's always good to take photo documentations, because if you ever do have an issue and it's something that you couldn't spot at the time, you would like a photo documentation connotating why you had that issue and you couldn't notice it. So right here we have some more issues with the fascia board and soffit. And we have some more loose trim. We already have this documented for our report, but we'll go ahead and be very descriptive in our report and let them know the various areas they have those issues in. Okay, now evaluating this wall once again, we have high soil. Cannot evaluate the foundation fully. And also we're going to take a look at the grade. So we do have an acceptable grade, but the reason why we have a high soil on the foundation is they've built it up right here to keep the water away from the foundation. So we may have some drainage issues in the backyard. Kind of let the client know they may need to get that further evaluated. So looking in the middle of this larger span, pretty much smack in the middle, I see a pretty large crack that is following the mortar line. Press on it a little bit. Okay. We do have brick ties, but we are having possibly some settling on this back portion. In any kind of crack or opening like that, we always recommend getting caulked and sealed, if not evaluated by a licensed professional. But it's good to go ahead and caulk and seal it, because if it's continuously opening back up, that caulk will actually start to show you that, and you can see if that opening reopens, then you know you still have movement and it may be excessive and you may need to get it further evaluated. Okay, so the roof looks relatively good on this side. Gutter appear to be in good condition. There is a little bit of a droop in the middle, and that's a pretty long span. That will affect the drainage. We have some more raised shingles. And then in this area, what I was talking about earlier, if you ever have a raised hump running parallel with the roof, you need to look at your decking. Possibly we are missing the H-clips that go in between when they stack the decking together. It'll keep the decking flush. And sometimes if they forget to put those on, the end of the decking will raise a little bit and you'll have that kind of that hump that just runs the length of the roof. So If that's accessible to us in the attic, we'll take a better look at that. Okay, so when you're inspecting garage door opener, one of the first things you would like to do is look at the hinges, look at the rollers, see how they're looking. Any rust, any loose. We definitely want to let a client know if they still have these functioning on the door. In theory, they're a very good idea to be able to secure your garage door, but it is not connected to the opener. So if you ever have this locked and engaged and you operate the opener, you will damage your system very badly, your tracks. So it's always good to tell the client the easiest way is to decommission those, just put a bolt right through there so it's not operational anymore. So what we'll do now is we're going to check the sensors to be sure that they work. Okay. And also we're going to see if it has the pressure reverse, meaning it should take about 15 to 20 pounds and it should automatically reverse itself. So we'll let it come down to about right here. We'll let it rest on our hand. If it doesn't obviously have that, we'll let it go. It does not have it. So this garage door does not have that feature. So we'll document that. We'll document that for the client and let them know. Okay, so from our report, we'll go ahead and take a picture of the unit. Try to get a serial number off of there for them in case they ever have to do any repairs. And also we'll get a photo of the sensor. Okay. So in a garage like this, we would really just document that it's heavily occupied. There's only so much that you can see in a garage like this. But we will come over here to the sprinkler system. All right. So with this right here, there's a couple things that we need to look for. We'll actually go back out on the street and we'll confirm that we have a backflow prevention device. It should be right off of the meter. And then also we should have a rain sensor. I did not see a rain sensor at first, so we will mark that up. Some of these systems are connected to the internet and they actually go off of what the weather is providing them via the app, so that is a possibility. Okay, no issues there. So we're gonna go ahead and run it in manual and we'll start at one zone and work our way through. All right, so now we're doing our sprinkler inspection. We are not gonna concern ourselves with the actual coverage of the system and how well every portion of the yard is getting covered, but what we do want to evaluate is the sprinkler heads and where they are positioned. Are they hitting any portion of the structure? Are they spraying onto flat work or the street or any other entity related to the structure? So we're going to do that now. So you always like to get to a good vantage point where you can lay eyes on everything. So right here we can see that that sprinkler is spraying onto the concrete. It will take some time, but eventually that can affect the overall condition and quality of that sidewalk. Right here, there's not a whole lot we can do in this situation, but it's never a good idea to have sprinkler heads spraying directly onto trees. That can damage the trees. All right, we're gonna move down a little bit. So this sprinkler head right here, it's kicked up. And if you've noticed, it's spraying up really high, so I don't think it's gonna effectively cover the area it should be. So we'll get a photo of that. Okay, and also, we're definitely spraying out onto the street. So we're gonna have to get these sprinkler heads adjusted. Okay, now we've come to our meter. So there's a couple things that we're gonna do right here. We wanna see if we can verify a grounding rod, and also we'll document the meter for our report. All right. Okay, so I cannot verify that we have a grounding rod present. So I'll take a photo and document that. Oh. Okay. So this window, this ledge right here is very loose. Put that in the report. And we've already talked about better caulking and sealing these windows. There's some more loose brick. Okay. All right. So anytime we have high soil and construction, we're going to go ahead and document this, as well as just take general photos in general. Okay. Looks like we may have a little bit of fungal growth on the roof, which is really common when we have big, tall, mature trees like that overhanging a roof. Sap and other things can fall onto the roof. You'll see a little bit of that black discoloration. Okay. All right. Same thing here. Better caulk and seal the windows. And then right here, we have a little bit of what you would call spalling on the foundation. Moisture can get into the concrete, and when it cools, it expands. It freezes, it expands, and then it'll actually pop off some of that concrete. It's more of a cosmetic issue, but we'll go ahead and document that. So that's it for the exterior. Now we're going to work our way to the inside of the home. So once I start on the inside of the home, one of the first things I like to do is go ahead and take care of all my water and plumbing fixtures and everything like that. Run all the water at the same time to get a general idea of how the home will withstand that once the client moves into the home. So we're going to go ahead and do that now. So if we had a crawl space, which we don't on this house, it's concrete slab, one of the first things we would do is we would get a trickle of water, just about like that, on all the fixtures, and then we would actually crawl the house to be sure we don't have any leaks. But in this situation, we don't. Go ahead and operate the dishwasher. Since we are going to inspect all the appliances in the kitchen, we're going to go ahead and close the soap dispenser and take a look and be sure the jet dry door is working as well. So it is active. And we'll go ahead and start this. Turbo. Okay. And now we work our way into here. We're not required to. We definitely don't operate washer and dryers. But if these weren't here, you could hook up a garden hose to the supply and just to check the plumbing over there. That's not required, but it's never a bad idea. Okay. Flush all the toilets several times. And also open up the cabinets to be sure we have no leaks. Okay, and once we start running the water, we'll set a timer. Set a timer for 10 minutes. All right. Master bathroom. Go ahead and get these fixtures running. Okay. Anytime you have a large walk-in shower, sometimes it's beneficial to go ahead and take a look at all of your mortar to see if you have any obvious deficiencies. Also, when I'm in here, I smell a little bit of a gaseous odor. And when a home is occupied, typically all your P-traps should be wet, which that prevents sewer and gases from backing up into the home. So the fact that I am smelling that, and this is being actively lived in, we could have an issue with the P-trap or possibly not have a P-trap. So when we get back to this area, we will let the client know that. Okay. All right, now in this time when I have the water running, I'm going to be continuously walking around the home, being sure we don't have any overflows, any major leaks. And also I'm going to be taking general photos of the home from various angles. This goes into my report under my photo summary. A lot of times people are having to move into homes where they actually never get to view them, or they only get to see them once or twice. So it's always a good idea to let the client know the current condition of the home as it was inspected. More general photos. Look under the sinks. We have a food disposer that we're going to need to inspect. Once again, I'm going to operate the commodes several times. Be sure they're flushing correctly. Also, we evaluate to see toilet is loose, tank is loose. So the tank is loose, we'll go ahead and document that. Okay, no leak under there. Okay. So after you've run the water for a good amount of time, and if you have put ample amount of water into the system, at this time go ahead and turn off all the plumbing fixtures. The way I inspect is I just take care of the water in itself, and then I still come back and inspect afterwards. I go room by room. So right now, just being sure that we don't have any leaks or any major issues. So once I've ran my water, the next thing I like to do is I always like to start in the kitchen. There's always a lot to see and do in the kitchen. So first thing I'll do is I'll start with the oven. I'll put my oven temp gauge in there. A lot of people use a gun. I prefer to use that. We like to see it. We like to set the oven at 350, and then we want to see it within 15 to 25 degrees of 350 once we take a photo of it. So we're going to be sure that we have the anti-tip device. We don't. And the reason you want an anti-tip device, because of the older ovens, you could throw this oven open and the door would be so heavy it actually flipped the oven over, and it's actually injured a lot of children. So that's why we have those. Okay. And now we're going to check the burners. With these electric cooktops, it's possible for them to light up bright red and not actually get to the appropriate temperature. So it's always good to get a reading on those. We want to see, typically you want it to get over in the 400 or 500s. It's pretty normal. These warming stations right here, you like to see those at least get over 100 degrees. Okay, and we'll turn it off. Be cautious that the stovetop is hot. One of the other things we'll do is we will get the serial number on all the appliances. And we'll actually put that in the report for the client. And we'll let that temp gauge sit in there a little longer. Okay. So now we'll evaluate the vent hood, exhaust system. Be sure the light works. It does not. So we get that documented. And we want to be sure it it will change to the different speeds. High, low, off, okay. And since it is a recirculatory unit, it's the microwave, we'll go ahead and get the cereal off the microwave. And we will let them know, okay. This probably did have a ducted range at one point, but now it's set up as a recirculatory unit. So you can tell the client that they have the capabilities to switch it up to a ducted unit. We'll see if in the attic, if it is ducted to the exterior like it should be. But as of right now, it's just a recirculatory unit. Okay. Now I'm gonna get my microwave tester. We'll be sure that the microwave is functioning as it should. Okay. And that illuminates red. That lets us know it's functioning as intended. We'll also take it out and run the microwave just for a few seconds and be sure we have nothing coming out on the exterior. Okay. So the microwave is in good shape. All right. Now we're looking at our countertop. We need to be sure that we have Gfci plugs in the appropriate places. So anywhere in the kitchen should have Gfci protection. We do there. And here as well. It's always a good idea to test the bottom and the top plug. A lot of times these plugs do fail altogether, but sometimes one or the other will fail. So if you only test one, you may miss a deficiency. Okay. Now in this situation right here, Gfci tripped and now is not resetting. So we'll document it, but hopefully it's pigtailed off of another Gfci plug. We can correct that and get that plug back functioning. So there is one more Gfci plug back here. Typically you don't have to unplug the seller's things that are plugged in here, but we want to be sure we can get that Gfci plug back working. So we'll go back and test it. Be sure that tripped. Sometimes when you're testing your electrical, especially on your exterior, okay, it's working now, so no issues. It may be hard to find the reset. Exterior plugs, sometimes they can trip at the panel. Other times there may be a Gfci plug in the bathroom, kitchen, garage. Just know sometimes you may run into that issue. All right, now we're gonna take a look at our dishwasher. It's been running for about 20 minutes now. The soap dispenser is opened up, so it lets me know it's functioning as intended. We're gonna evaluate the basket and the internal housing for any rust. All right, so now we're gonna take a look at the food disposer. So we're gonna take a general photo for our report. If we can get the serial number, we'll go ahead and get that, which I can right here. Okay. And also, this is the drain hose for the dishwasher. It does have the appropriate loop to prevent water from being sucked into the system from this guy right here. So that's a good thing. Also, you always want to look at the electrical line supplying the food disposer to be sure it is appropriately attached. Sometimes it's hard to see. Sometimes it's better just to take a picture and then evaluate the picture. So this picture right here shows me that the cord is not appropriately attached, and that is actually a safety hazard because someone could bump that cord and pop it loose and electrocute themselves. And now we'll go ahead and further evaluate the kitchen sink. We'll test our hot water as well. So there's two different types of ways for checking for leaks. We're just gonna let water naturally run through. We'll look and feel for leaks. And then also we'll actually stop the sink, let water build up some, and then release it. This creates a suction that'll actually touch the seals right underneath the sink. And if you're just normally running water, it will not test that because you have to create that suction. So once we run some water, we'll take that off. And now we'll check to see if we have any leaks in these fittings right beneath the sink, which we don't. We'll do it for both sides. Let some water build up and release it. And we're good. And also we're looking to evaluate our P-trap. Be sure we don't have anything funny going on. No S-traps. Here's our, we will make a note that we are venting under the kitchen sink. They do have the appropriate admittance valve, but sometimes that can come into municipalities do not allow that. We're gonna get a reading for our water heater. Okay. We like to see it between 115 and 120 degrees. If it's over 120 degrees, we'll go ahead and let the client know that. Once it gets past that, you run the risk of scalding. Okay. Come back to the oven and check to see our temperature gauge. And we are spot on at 350, as we should be. Okay. And we'll go ahead and turn that oven off. Okay, so now at this point, we've finished up the kitchen. Now we're gonna start working our way through the house. We're just gonna clear room by room. So we're gonna go ahead and go right in here to this breakfast nook. Make sure our electrical is working. Okay, we're looking for any deficiencies in the ceiling, any cracks in the walls. We have some twisting right there on the wall of the tape bed and texture of the tape. So whenever we have tape that's twisting like this, this is typically a sign of differential deflection in the home. That means we do have some settling going on. And it's not really our job to evaluate why, even though this is an extension of the home, so it would be pretty common for an entity of the home like this to experience this, but we'll go ahead and document it and recommend they have it further evaluated by a foundation specialist. Okay, when we come to a window, we're going to open up all the windows to be sure they function as intended. We just heard an alarm, so that's always good to note because you need to pay attention to that if you're going to plan on testing the smoke and CO2 alarms like you should. But in this situation, if we have an alarm, we should not do so because the fire department will show up. Okay. Okay. Those are good shape. Okay. We do have a common crack right here. A common crack is typically in a straight line. Stress cracks are more jagged, diagonal, appear like lightning bolts. They're a sign of stress on the home. A common crack is typically just two man-made materials that are meeting or intersecting, and over time they've started to fail. We have a plug right here. Okay, no issues there. All right. Okay, so now we're gonna go to the utility room. We're gonna check the pocket door. Be sure it functions as intended. Okay, appears to be in good shape. So for our report, we always document the duct for the dryer at the wall and also on the exterior. So in this situation, there's not a whole lot we can do. So also while we're in the kitchen and bathrooms in general, you do not want to go through people's personal items. But you do want to take a look in the cabinets, especially obviously around plumbing. But you never know when you can see something. And if you ever do have issues with wood destroying insects, sometimes you can possibly see them in the back of the cabinets. And also we're checking to see if the doors are square, rollers, functionality. So right there, a little bit of port planning. Put that as a buyer's note. Okay. All right. With the refrigerators, typically what I do for my clients is a lot of times appliances are getting left and involved in the home buying process. So what I do with the refrigerator is I go ahead and get temperature readings off of the unit to be sure it's cooling as you would like it to. So on the refrigerator, we're at 36, which is good. And then in the freezer, we're in the negatives. It's okay. And I just put that in the general photos for the client to be sure they can see that the refrigerator is working as you would like it to. So when you're doing a WDI inspection, termite inspection, something that's really important for you to do is to side light the walls. Not only does that show deficiencies, patching, other various issues, but if we do have anything in the sheetrock, you will be able to see it. It'll look like kind of like a hollowed out tunnel. Almost appears to be a coral reef at times. And you're looking for any other evidence of frass down at the baseboards, any other issues. And then when you get to any window and door, we always use a moisture meter. So right there, I'm gonna notate some of that patchwork. So if you do have any kind of water leaks, it's very common, or moisture intrusion, it's very common to see them around doors and windows, especially on a home like this where they weren't very well caulked and sealed underneath. Okay. So anything over 18 degrees, anything over 18%, we consider having a moisture presence. So we'll go ahead and take a photo of that. Okay. So we definitely have active moisture in this area. Do that for all the windows. So all of these windows are going to advise to the client to get those better caulked and sealed. Now we're going to work our way to this side of the home. Look for any issues in the ceiling. Evidence of previous leaks or patching. Looks like we have some additional texture that's been added on over a previous issue. We'll go ahead and confirm that we don't have any moisture issues here. If we do not, we'll document that as well. Okay. Now we're at the front door. Check the functionality of the door. So we're hitting right here. So it appears the door is slightly out of square. That can be correlated to foundation issues, and we did have issues on this front porch, but we will let the client know that. And also, yeah, okay. All right. Side lighting the walls. So right here, we have a little bit of deterioration on the ceiling, some cracking. Once again, we'll put our moisture meter. Be sure we don't have any issues. Okay. Sometimes it just depends. Sometimes when they paint these roofs, they can actually use the wrong type of paint that's not approved for sealant application. And maybe that's what we could possibly be having there. But we will mark it up. Go ahead and evaluate the ceiling. Okay. All right, now we're to a window. Carefully raise the blinds. And once again, check for moisture. Okay. All right. Okay, so right here, the weather stripping is a little loose. The internal components of the window. Mark that up. Okay, plugs are working. Plugs are working. All right, we have evidence of patching in this area. And also we have some failure at the seam on the tape right here. We'll let the client know. Get that in the report. Right there. Okay, now to the fireplace. We will need to let the client know what type of fireplace they have, if it's wood burning, gas starter, vented, ventless, and just the overall condition. So the fireplace does need to be cleaned. We'll let them know that. And now we will look at the firebox. We have some cracking, which is relatively common. And we will look at the damper. All right, so we want to check to be sure that the damper is operational. Okay, it is. And if we have a gas burning fireplace, we need to have a C-clamp on that damper, just in case you ever have any kind of a slow leak. There'll still be access for that gas to get to the exterior from the chimney and the flue. But in this situation, we don't. Okay. All right. Seeing some more deterioration of the ceiling surface. And we have a plug over here that we're going to check. All right, I'm going to check the doors. With these French doors, we want to be sure both the top and bottom latch are functioning as they are intended. Okay, that's good. Be sure locking appropriately. Okay. So if there's ever a light switch that we do not know what it supplies power to, we'll go ahead and document that. I always like to also document that sometimes during the day it's hard to know if, especially plugs in this location, if they operate an exterior fixture, but it's always good to notate that because sometimes older homes that have been remodeled, they'll have dead switches that do nothing. You try to notate that when you can. All right, doors, should they work? And we're sidelighting. Okay. Moving on to the entryway. And now to the living room, or the secondary living room. Okay, so with our ceiling fans, on every one we want to operate it in the different speeds: high, low, medium. Sure it turns off. Okay. Appears this fan, when it's on high, it's a little noisy. So we'll actually have a comment for that. Okay. Also, if you have a step stool, or if you're like me and you're tall enough, you can actually put your light to the ceiling and you can see a lot of imperfections and deficiencies. And if we do have any sagging in the ceiling joist or any kind of other issues, you can kind of pick up on that if you're able to do that. And this looks relatively normal. Okay. All right, so windows like this, we're not going to climb over the couch to get to those. So we're just going to observe visually. If we can open the blind, we will. Take a look. You always want to be cautious of broken seals on windows. These are double pane windows, so if you see any frosting or excessive condensation on the inside or the exterior, you want to notate that. Okay. Areas right here, we have trim boards that are coming separated. It's relatively common for trim boards. If you think of wood in general, there's a lot of moisture in wood. So in Texas, when it gets hot and when it gets very cold, trim like that will expand and open up, contract, and various things. Okay, so we're checking for moisture around the window. Okay. Check any fixtures, lights that we come across. It's always a good idea to look up into the closets, because whenever they do remodel homes, the closet is the last thing to ever get thought about being remodeled, touched up. And also in general, when you have any kind of a closet that is occupied like this with a lot of things stored or hung, it's good to go ahead and get a general photo because we are doing a visual inspection, and this does limit our view of what we can see in this closet. We'll go to this room. So, once again, starting from the bottom, working our way to the top. I typically go wall by wall. We'll check to see the doors function as intended. Okay. These boxed out windows, they can be prone to having moisture issues, so we're going to be sure we evaluate that. Okay, everything appears to be below 18%. All right. Okay. And once again, when we're checking our receptacles, we're looking to be sure we have no plugs that are wired incorrectly, open, grounded, neutral, and hot reversed. So that's what we're checking on every receptacle. Okay. Okay, now these are our smoke alarms, but since these are tied to the alarm system, we're not actually physically going to test them, but we are going to check to be sure they're in the appropriate places. With smoke alarms, we should have them anywhere that you could really fall asleep. So living room, bedrooms, they should have one over each door in each hallway approaching said door. So we have one there, have one here. I'll get a photo in this room not having one. I'll check in here. It doesn't have one either. When you're evaluating a smoke alarm or carbon monoxide detector, you want to be sure that we have it in the proper placement. You always want it in hallways nearby any entryway to a bedroom, but also you want to have the same type of alarms in each bedroom. So right here, we're missing those alarms. Typically, our CO detectors are down low, but sometimes the combination unit, they're actually approved to be smoke and carbon monoxide installed at a higher level. It depends on the particulate size that it's able to pick up. So that is something you will actually have to inform your client. They'll need to read up on the type of model that's installed in the home. So now we're getting to our electrical panel. So right off the bat, we're going to let the client know that this is actually an older practice to put electrical panels into a bedroom closet. That's not something that is up to code nowadays. We're not allowed to put them in a hazardous situation where clothes are nearby. And also you need a clear workspace. You need about 3 feet in front of you and 30 inches on each side. So this is what you would call an as-built condition. When they did this, it was common practice, but in 2022, it's not up to our standards. One of the first things I like to do is to get my contact tester to be sure there's no panel itself is not hot. It's not. Go ahead and open up the unit, get a photo, take a look at our labeling. It appears to be partially labeled. We'll go ahead and get a photo of that. Probably could be better labeled. So we're already seeing a disconnect. We got a 100 amp service, and we do have some GFCI resets. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get a general photo for the client and for our report. Okay, so this is a gas unit. Checking to see if we're in contact with any combustibles. Looking for quality of the insulation. We do have some minor rusting. It's pretty common, but we'll go ahead and take a photo of that. Now we're going to look at the gas line. The gas line is entering the unit with hard pipe, which is correct. We do not have a sediment trap. It's uncommon to have issues with excessive sediment in our gas in this area, but it's still of note. This is our cap for our clean out. We want to be sure that we have see if we can visually verify if we have a P-trap. Appears we do. And while we're down here, we'll go ahead and evaluate the air chase. Be sure we don't have any electrical or gas lines actually that's going to be drawn into the system, and we do not. It is a little dirty. We'll document that. Other than that, it looks in pretty good condition. Evaluate the filter. I always like to get a picture of the filter before I pull it out. This also shows the size. Okay, filter is relatively clean. Okay. All right. So at this time, we're going to turn the heat on and we're going to evaluate the burners. We want to evaluate the burners, be sure there's no issues. We're looking for flame color, looking to see if we have any codes on the unit. Screen appears to be good. So we're evaluating the heater. We're looking for any flame rollout, any discoloration. It's burning bright blue. It's exactly as we would like to see it. I don't see any coded errors on the unit. Once again, we have hard pipe coming into the unit, and everything seems to be relatively appropriate. We'll take a look at be sure this is the appropriate rated. Yes, this is a type B vent, which is what we want for this apparatus. And then also, we are not in contact with any combustibles. This unit is a 2018. It's the same age as the outside condenser. It appears to be in relatively good shape. So now what we're going to do is we're going to let the heater run for a split second. I'm going to get some readings from the register, and then we're going to cut the system off, let it rest for a little while, and then we'll finish up with being sure our differential readings on our air conditioner is what we like. We want to see a difference between 15 to 22 degrees coming out of the register. It's very important in Texas to have a functioning air conditioner, so that's what we will finish up with. Okay, so no issues. We're supplied heat in the house at all the registers sufficiently. So at this time, we're going to cut the unit off and give it a little time, and then we'll switch back to the AC and further evaluate that system. On this house, we have 2 water heaters. It appears to be that this water heater is supplying hot water to this side of the home, our kitchen and our half bath, more likely than not. And the tankless water heater in the attic is probably supplying water to the bathrooms. So also we're going to get water readings off of both of those to be sure the temperature is sufficient. So we're going to start at the bottom. First thing we'll notice that we do have a drain pan, but it is not plumbed to the exterior like it should. This is a gas unit. Okay, our TPR valve is drained to the exterior. I believe goes right there. Okay, and then it follows out and goes to the outside. Once again, we have the appropriate vent type. We have our combustible air supply right here, and we are not in contact with combustibles, so that is good. Let's see. Okay, so we're gonna get some general photos for our report. We're gonna get the age. Okay, so this is a 2020 unit, so it's relatively new. These hot water heaters can last anywhere from 6 to 10 years, sometimes well under. Sometimes well over that. Sometimes they do not make it to their life expectancy. But it's always important to let your client know how new or old their unit is. So now we're going to go ahead and get the air conditioner up and running. So now we're going to inspect the air conditioner. We're going to look at our differential readings coming out of all the registers. We want it to be between 15 to 22 degrees. If it's a little under, that means the system might not be able to keep up with what's being needed for the structure. If it's over that, we might have to get the system further evaluated. Well, the client will need to be sure that everything is zoned appropriately. So we're going to do that now. So we have 42 degrees coming out of this register. It's good to go ahead and document every register. And also this could help you tell your clients if they possibly have a hot or a cold room that they might need to be focused on moving forward. The farther away you get it from a system, the harder the system might have cooling set of rooms. So, okay, but everything in the structure appears to be appropriate. Okay, it's good. 18 degrees, also acceptable. So now we're back in this smaller bathroom. Looks like the aerator may be a little clogged or damaged. Evaluate if the stoppers are working correctly. Appear to be. We'll go ahead and stop it. Evaluate for leaks. Check on our P-trap and our supply lines. Okay, no issues there. And even though we already got our hot water reading from the kitchen sink, you'll be surprised, sometimes you do not have water supplied to every fixture, so go ahead and confirm that you do have hot water. All right, and we're gonna check our Gfci plug. Okay, so we do not have a Gfci plug, but this plug is Gfci protected. We have a Gfci breaker in the panel, and that is where our reset is to. So we'll reset that and we'll move on. Okay, so now in the water closet, we have a mechanical exhaust. We'll let it run for a second to be sure it's not excessively noisy, out of balance. It's flush with the ceiling. When we get in the attic, we'll confirm that it does duct to the exterior. A lot of times they will duct into the attic. That's an older practice, and that can give you excessive moisture in your attic space that you do not need. Okay. Toilet is a little loose. And now we'll make a sharp turn and we'll take a look at the shower. We're going to check the diverter and check if it's loose. So that spout is a little loose. Okay, so our diverter is not fully diverting the water. It's pretty common with older homes. It's just a sign that the diverter from the shower to bath is getting a little corroded and in there, maybe to be replaced sometime in the near future. Door is in good shape. Side lighting. Patching, you've seen a lot of that. More separations of the trim board. You always want to pay attention around these registers, especially a wall register like this. If you have a lot of condensation buildup, you'll start to see deterioration around the sheetrock around these registers. I don't see any, but if you do, sometimes that can be an indication of a failure at where the, the register and the ductwork meet itself. No issues with moisture. So a little room like this, it's somewhat heavily occupied. There's not really much to see here. We do have photos of this in our photo summary to let the client know it was heavily occupied at the time. If any of these switches have a dimmer, go ahead and operate it to be sure it's functioning as intended. And also be sure that the light's actually cut off. Sometimes when you have a dimmer, sometimes these LED lights don't want to fully cut off. We'll go ahead and further evaluate all the plumbing in this area. All right. No leaks. We're actually missing the stopper. We'll photograph that. It's never a bad idea to take a photo underneath the sink if there's a lot of stuff under there. You still want to move what you can move to see if you do have leaks or not, but okay. No leaks. On this faucet right here, the hot and cold is actually reversed. So this is where on the right is typically always where the cold supply should be, and that's where our hot is. So we'll go ahead and document that. I'll go ahead and test the plugs. Once again, should be GFCI protected. Okay. We have a light fixture that's not coming on. Okay. Be sure there's no other way of turning it on. Okay. All right. So we will check to be sure that we're getting hot water, as well as we'll transition from the different zones. On this shower, we have a rain shower, a normal head, and we have a wall sprayer as well. Be cautious with the ones out of the wall, they will get you wet. Like that. Okay, so it's cycling through the different zones. All right. Okay, now into the closet. So this is where our attic access is. We'll get our ladder and come right back. And we will get a general photo of this closet because it's heavily occupied. There's not a lot that we can truly see. All right. So we have a tankless water heater that we are going to evaluate and inspect. So one of the first things we're going to look at, the overall appearance of the unit, how it's ducted to the exterior. If you look right here, this flue is in contact with combustibles. That is not ideal. This will put off a lot of heat. So we're going to safely get a little closer. Get a photo of that. Show how it's in contact with the decking. Okay. See a little corrosion right there. We're going to document that, a photo of that. And then another thing we're going to tell the client, there's going to be a little homework involved with this water heater, because some water heaters you are not allowed, or it's not advised to install on exterior wall like this. In Texas it is very hot during the summer, but also gets very cold during the winter. So a unit like this with uninsulated lines can freeze and damage the unit. So we will definitely make a note of that. This unit also does not have a safety pan or a safety trough that is plumbed to the exterior. So that is a deficiency. We'll get a picture of that. Along we'll get a picture of the serial number for our report. Got it. Okay. And while we're up here, since we have a gas supply, we are going to pull out our meter. Be sure that we do not have any leaks. We'll let that calibrate for a second. Okay. So we're going to run this near all the fittings. Be sure we're not picking up any leaks near the unit. On top. Okay, we're good. Right here we would like to see a little bit more better insulation on exterior walls like this. Right here we have some damaged decking. The plank system right there before they put the OSB on top, just missing a portion right there. You would prefer to see this purlin support continuous all the way through. So that technically is incorrect, but at least they came back and added purlin supports into this area, so that is good. It is correct on this side, runs the length of the home. Thing that is always a smart thing to do when you're in an attic, turn your light off and look around and see if you have any openings to the exterior that should not be there. On the east side of the structure, I'm actually seeing a small opening that needs to be sealed, so we'll get a photo of that the best we can. We'll document that for the client. Okay. Also, when you're evaluating the decking, this appears to be they had a space plank decking system at one point, and now they've put an OSB board on top of it. So we inspected the hot water heater in the attic. It did not have a safety pan installed, but other than that, there's no major issues with the hot water heater. We did have some altered purlin supports, and we're missing collar ties. when this house was built, that may not have been common practice, but we'll let the client know that we are missing those, and we do have some signs of separation at the ridge and rafters. So collar ties would actually be beneficial to keep that from spreading out any further. So we'll document that and put that in the report for the client. And other than that, there were some issues with some of the ducts. Some of the insulation is coming off and they could be better secured, and the insulation could be repaired, and using the appropriate tape to repair those ducts. We like to have them elevated off the insulation. You don't want to have contact with the insulation in the ducts, but there are some that the insulation probably should be rearranged in certain spots. But overall, that was the majority of our findings in the attic. So now we're about to inspect the roof. I always recommend that you evaluate the attic before you ever get onto a roof. Especially if you're a bigger guy, you want to be sure that it'll hold you and support you and keep you safe. I do recommend trying to stay on the rafters whenever you're traversing on the roof. And also, as CPIs, we always like to have at least 3-foot clearance when getting on the roof, and you have your appropriate slope. So it's always important to be safe. One of the first things I like to do before I ever get onto the roof, further evaluate the gutter system. Get a photo if we have any debris, and also like to lift up the shingles and see how the drip edge is installed. So I always like to evaluate the drip edge. So right here, the underlayment is actually tucked underneath the drip edge. That is okay on the sides if they're a slope, but portions right here, if there's ever a leak on the roof, that water is going to travel underneath the shingles on top of this material, and then it's going to come to this drip edge and get trapped, and it won't be able to roll off the roof into the gutters, and in turn that can actually start to damage your fascia board and soffits, like right there. All right, so now we're on the roof. You always want to be very cautious when you're on the roof. Get to a safe spot and get a wide span view of everything. So I'm starting to look at the ridge line on this garage. It looks like we have a little bit of drop in it. It's relatively common with older homes, but this home was built in the 80s. So we'll go ahead and document that into the report. Also, we can see those raised shingles right there, and also some of the earlier deficiencies that we noted. So let's see. All right, we're gonna go up to the ridge. All right, so we're looking for any exposed nail heads, any lifted shingles, issue with the flashing, or ridge line in general. We're gonna come over here. We're gonna take a look. So right here, we actually do not have a spark arrestor for our fireplace. So I need to document that. And also, we have some rusting on the chimney cap. So we can also see right here, flashing for the fireplace. And once again, we're going to let the client know that we have very large mature trees. They are overhanging the roof. Definitely recommend getting those trimmed back. That could be very costly if you have branches falling onto your roof. Also, we always make note of debris. Excessive gumballs, leaves, and sticks of that, things of that nature, can start to cause issues and deteriorate your roof covering. All right. And so that appears to be everything that we can see. We'll go ahead and come over to this area and check on these vents over here. Okay, so right here, we do have an exposed nail head on this vent. Get that photographed. So that right there, on that flashing, we just need to get that caulked and sealed, and it should be good. So real quick, we're going to make a video for the client showing them some of the conducive conditions they have around the property for wood destroying insects. Right here we have a flower bed that is abutting the structure that is a conducive condition. Right here in other various areas around the foundation, we have high soil. We should always have 2 to 4 inches exposed at all times. Right here we have a wooden fence in contact with the structure. This is a conducive condition for termites. Anytime a fence like this is abutting the structure, it may be treated, but eventually that treatment will fade and that will become a conducive condition. So right here in other various areas around the property, we have wood rot. This is also a conducive condition for termites. Would definitely recommend the client get this repaired and fixed. Right here we have another conducive condition. This is wood to ground contact. Not only is this a deficiency in regards to the structure itself and the home inspection, but also for the WDI. We just want to educate the client and be sure that they hopefully alleviate all these conducive conditions and improve the overall quality of the property and the structure. So whenever we are doing our home inspection, we're also looking for termites and other things. Any type of wood destroying insect. That's how we do it at East Texas Home Inspection. It's pretty easy to do both of them at the same time, a lot of the same processes. But what we'll do is what we call sidelighting, like right here. We will look down to see if there's any termites that have bored or accessed the interior gypsum board. And you will see crevices, and sometimes it can even appear to look almost like a coral reef. And I'm not seeing any of that on the structure at any point. But we be sure to follow all the baseboards, look on the walls, up and down. Specifically pay close attention to all the exterior walls. Okay, not seeing anything. Okay. In situations like this where you have carpet, sometimes termites will actually produce a debris called frass. And that's something else we'll look for, especially in carpets. Okay, everything's looking pretty good. Also, when you're doing your termite inspection, you want to pay close attention to any area where there's a water source. Termites love to get near water sources in general. That's how they will build their termite tubes, and they'll travel within material. But it's just common to see them near water sources. So anytime you're looking under a sink that you have clear access to, be sure to look at that back panel. Be sure there's no evidence, no foreign soil. Anytime you see dirt where it shouldn't be, either in the walls or in the ceilings, dirt splotches in the ceiling is a dead giveaway for termite issues. So that's something always to be mindful of. So this is Austin Hilbun with East Texas Home Inspection. Thank you for joining me on this home inspection. We thoroughly evaluated every system and component within the home. And also we did a WDI inspection, or better known as a termite inspection, which showed no results of wood destroying insects. I would like to tell you, when you're working in the heat, you need to be cautious of dealing with the attic and also on the roof. Temperatures can get really hot in the attic, well over 140 to 50 degrees. So you need to be cautious and stay safe. So please visit InterNACHI.org for any more further information and details on home inspections and other CE courses that you can take. This is Austin Hilbun. Thank you for joining me, and until next time, have a good day.